from Singapore. I study in Wolsey Hall Oxford, doing year 3 and 4. We live near the sea and this makes us enjoy the nature along with my studies. A typical day for me would be studying, playing, swimming, and spending lots of time with my family. I study maths and English from year 4 and geography, science, and computing from year 3. The day begins with printing out the lesson plans for the day, and after my mom explains them, I do the exercises on my own. Along with the exercises, I also sit with the computer to do activities online provided by Wolsey Hall Oxford. The online activities are interactive and it helps me to do the subjects like a game, and it's very interesting to me. Along with my regular studies, I get crafting activities from science and geography which gives me peace of mind and I take great interest in doing so. My favorite game indoors is to play with building blocks. I love to color when I'm sitting idle. My mom prints out coloring pages and I love to spend my time coloring them. After studying 1 or 2 subjects, I go out to the playground with my brothers. Homeschooling has been an amazing experience as I finish my studies in time and get plenty of time to do self-development and build a memorable childhood.
So welcome to this Wolsey Hall Oxford homeschooling information webinar. I hope you enjoyed meeting Abdullah, one of our primary level homeschooling students. We've got families joining us from all around the globe today. So a very big welcome to you all, whether it's morning, evening, afternoon. I'm Lynn Stacey, Marketing Manager here at Wolsey Hall. And just to let you know that we will be recording this webinar and we will send out links to the recording to you all a few days after the event, so please check your inboxes for those. So the format for today is going to be a presentation followed by a question and answer session. You can find the question and answer session at the bottom of your screens if you hover down there, and you can type questions in there that our panelists will be able to answer for you. We would, however, recommend that you don't start typing any questions in until after the presentation is finished, because a lot of the questions that you have will probably be answered within the presentation. Please note, we also won't be answering questions that are very specific to individual children today. For those types of inquiries, please put in an inquiry form to our team and they'll be absolutely delighted to answer those for you on a one-to-one basis. So I'm joined here today by a number of colleagues who will be giving the presentation and answering the questions both in the Q&A and live in the discussions. We've got Christine Armstrong, Head of Primary, Ruth Young, Head of Secondary, and a large number of our colleagues from the tutors, admissions, supervisors of courses also joining us in the Q&A to answer all your questions. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Christine and Ruth, who will give a presentation on Wolsey Hall Oxford. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. Thank you everyone for joining us this morning. Christine and I are very excited to tell you a little bit about Wolsey Hall Oxford and the homeschooling courses that we offer. So just before we get into a bit more detail about the subjects that we offer, I'd like to give you a little bit of background about Wolsey Hall Oxford. Wolsey Hall Oxford was founded in 1894, so we have been around for a very long time. Back in 1894, we weren't online as we are now. We were operating as a distance learning college. So if you choose your child to study at Wolsey Hall Oxford, you can be assured that we have a wealth of experience in homeschooling and also online schooling, as we made the switch to online schooling around 12 years ago. We're an extremely experienced online provider. We offer courses for children aged between 4 and 18. These cover the stages of lower and upper primary, lower secondary, IGCSE and A-level. We also are a registered online school of Cambridge. Christine's going to talk to you a little bit more about that shortly. We're very proud to have a global perspective on homeschooling. We have students in over 125 different countries around the world, which means we are very well placed to support students no matter where you are. And also our courses are designed to enable students to make progress in a variety of subjects, no matter where they are located in the world. We also are proud of our heritage with a number of renowned students, some of whom you can see on our Wolsey Hall Wall of Fame on our website to see the universities that our students have gone on to and the future pathways and achievements that they have gained. We are particularly proud of one of our former students, who is Nelson Mandela, and you can read a little bit more about that on our website if it is of interest.
So Ruth mentioned that we are a Cambridge school. So we've been registered with them for a number of years now, and that is really important to us. So we follow the English National Curriculum. So we are following the UK-based curriculum for our homeschooling courses, but also as well, we're also following Cambridge as well. Now, Cambridge is very well known globally as an educational framework for schools, and in fact, they had over 8 million candidates in their last round of exams that took place throughout the world. And there's over 10,000 Cambridge schools. We're particularly proud of the fact that actually only a handful of those are online schools. And certainly from a primary perspective, for our youngest students, we are the only registered primary online school as well. So being part of Cambridge helps our parents and our students to know that we are a quality provider of homeschooling education, which will lead on to all of our students studying at IGCSE and A-level to be able to take internationally accredited and internationally recognised examinations to receive the qualifications they need for university and the workplace.
So during this presentation, Christine and I are going to talk about some of the courses that you can study with Wolsey Hall. But to give you a bit of a flavour as to what sets Wolsey Hall apart from other online providers, I'm just going to talk through some of our unique aspects which are appealing to parents and children who are homeschooling around the world. So one thing Wolsey Hall can offer you is a very strong partnership between Wolsey Hall, the parents and the students. We do this via a variety of methods, including tutors and student progress managers. And we feel that we are very well placed to advise and guide and chivvy if needed to allow students to make the progress on their courses with us. Something that we offer, being a homeschooling provider, is placement flexibility. This means that at our core, we believe that it is important for every child to be studying at the correct level for them. We do not place a child necessarily according to their age. We base it on the studies that they have done previously and their aptitudes and capability. This means that as a homeschooling parent, if you have a child who excels in a particular subject, you don't need to study at the age expected level. You could study at a higher level. Conversely, if your child perhaps finds a certain subject challenging and needs additional support or additional guidance, you can choose a different level for them to study at. We are able, because of our asynchronous learning model, to offer complete flexibility with our guidance to our parents and students who join Wolsey Hall. To enable this process, because we have to assess and we have to look at what is best for the child, we offer ready tests for a number of our subjects that look at students' prior learning, and they can assess where they are at, the topics that they have studied. This is particularly important if you're coming to Wolsey Hall from outside of a UK curriculum background. It allows you to see how the previously studied subjects align with the Wolsey Hall and UK and Cambridge curriculum, and also then assess a student's competence in a particular subject area. And then these are discussed with the families and our admissions team and student progress managers to find the best fit for your child. We also offer at the end of courses and during courses, certificates of achievement and end of course reports. These are formal documents provided to you as a homeschooling family to enable you to certify that your child has been part of Wolsey Hall and the studies that they have completed. As I mentioned in the first part, we do have this strong support network for families with our fully qualified tutors and student progress managers. Our community websites for both secondary and primary learners are there to ensure that we are not just focusing on the academic progress of a child, but also the holistic pastoral development as well. These secure password protected sites have a variety of activities that students can engage in, including clubs and competitions. We have clubs such as debate club, book club, chess club, many different clubs for students to engage with and meet other homeschoolers around the world as well.
So just before we move on to the more detailed information about our courses, we thought it would be useful just to share with you the different phases of Wolsey Hall. You might have a child who is in the primary phase, you might have a child that's in the secondary phase of homeschooling at the moment. So our youngest age group tends to be lower primary, and lower primary consists of getting ready for year one, so a pre-year one course in English and maths, and it also includes year one and year two. So typically this age range tends to be from about 3.5 to 4 years old through to 7 years old. The upper primary phase is made up of years 3, 4, 5, and 6. And typically these equate to ages 7 to 11 in a physical school setting. We then move on to the secondary phase. So lower secondary consists of years 7, 8, and 9. And typically this is children between ages 11 and 14 in this phase of school. And then we move on to the exam years. So we start with GCSE and IGCSE, and this is known as years 10 and years 11. These are 2-year programs, and these are typically for children aged 14 to 16 years old. Then we move on to A-level, and A-level, again, it's a 2-year program. We call these years 12 and years 13, and typically the students studying A-level tend to be around 16 to 18 years old. So although I've given you the age-related equivalents, like Ruth mentioned earlier, there is flexibility to study at different levels depending on the personal needs of each student, and as well as students within the age ranges that I've mentioned. We also have mature students as well that are seeking out some additional education, or they want to fill a gap in past education, and they may come to us looking to do GCSEs and A-levels as well. So once you've completed your A-levels, then you are ready to move on from Wolsey Hall. For some people, the pathway for them is into employment. And for others, the pathway is onto university or college somewhere in the world. So it's not just UK-based universities and colleges, but it's universities and colleges around the world. And we can facilitate and assist you in that journey to move on from Wolsey Hall to your next step. So moving on to our curriculum, I'm just going to share with you the subjects that primary do. So before I share the subjects that we do, I'm just going to share a little video with you first.
else did he say to add? I'll hold it, you do it. It's your experiment. Be careful. Follow the food down. Coming out the stomach. It's going into the small intestine. Look at that. It's coming out. Yeah. And then what happens? Watch what he does. Should come out here. I remember they were very good at it.
So that video there, we specifically wanted to give you a flavour for primary level, which is our younger students. Just wanted to give you a flavour of what it's like homeschooling in the primary phase. It does require parental support, and it does require some guidance and facilitation of the learning at home. And also as well, you can see there that actually it's not just online, your child sat in front of a computer, but there are also activities and tasks to carry out offline as well, so that you have a balanced approach to learning at home. So in the primary phase, we have many subjects that you can study. I mentioned before that we have a pre-year one series of courses. So we actually have maths and English as a full academic year. So if your child actually is not quite ready for primary level, then they could be getting ready for year one maths and getting ready for year one English as a 12-month course in order to make sure they've got all the foundational skills that they need to access primary schooling. In lower primary, you can see, I won't go through them all, but you can see the core subjects. And by core subjects, we mean the subjects that are deemed to be the most important. And core subjects at primary is English, maths, and science. Those are all offered at year one and year two. And actually computing, we start to offer at upper primary in years 3 to 6, as computing is becoming more recognized as a core subject. So there is a host of subjects that you can choose from to get that balance between core subjects, but also as well, if your child is very creative, then we have things like music, art. If they particularly enjoy humanities, so things like geography, history, languages, we have a range of courses that would be suitable. So there is plenty of choice to choose from. Sometimes we were asked how many a child should do. At primary, if you were in school, you'd be doing all of the subjects that you can see in front of you. We would recommend as a minimum that you should be doing the core subjects at home, so English, maths and science.
So moving on to the secondary subject choices that we have. As Christine described earlier in the Wolsey Hall journey, lower secondary is typically for students aged between 11 to 14, and it is the stage of their education which directly follows primary. So no matter which system you're moving from, at the end of the primary system, lower secondary would be your first step into the secondary school journey. In this level, students typically at a school would study between 12 and 13 subjects. Similarly to primary, would always advise that they would take at least the core subjects of English, maths, science, potentially computing, as Christine referenced there, in order to create a broad foundation. Lower secondary is the time where students can really study a larger number of subjects to gain depth and breadth and a springboard for them to then move on to specialise at IGCSE. So we would recommend that students explore different subjects, discover their passions, discover where they excel in lower secondary. You can see that we offer different courses in English. So we offer English, which is the English First Language course, and English as a second language. This could be discussed at the admissions point, but English as a second language is a specific pathway designed for students for whom English is not their mother tongue. Again, there is flexibility between that. A student could move from second language to first language dependent on the progress they make over the course. We also, like in primary, offer more practical subjects like art and music for students who are keen to develop their creative side. We then move into IGCSE, which is the first point where students will specialise and start to hone their subject choices for their further education. IGCSE is the first external examined point of the secondary curriculum. Those external exams are taken normally after 2 years of studying IGCSE courses. We would always recommend that students study a minimum of 5 IGCSEs, including English and maths. From the list, you can see we offer a wide variety of English, maths and science courses. And if you're interested in finding out more about those, details are on our website, or you can contact our admissions team for a chat about those courses that we offer. They very much are courses designed to offer science, maths and English to every single child who is interested in an IGCSE. So they are designed specifically for different levels. We then move on to the AS and A-level courses, where students specialise even further than IGCSE, and students would typically study between 3 and 4 subjects at this level over a period of 2 years. We offer courses in science, maths, English and a number of other subjects as well at A-level. At this point, this is where students are starting or perhaps refining their university choices. So the A-level subject guidance that we can provide you as a homeschooling family can be key to ensuring your child meets those university entry requirements. Moving on to external examinations to talk a little bit more. As I mentioned, we offer IGCSE, AS level and A-level courses that prepare students for external examinations with both Cambridge, with whom we're a registered school, and Pearson EdXL. Both of these are exam boards that are globally recognised and lead to qualifications that are accepted by universities in countries around the world and employers. Wolsey Hall students enter external examinations as private candidates, and we are well set up to support you with finding a local examination centre, in that we have exams officers, one of whom is UK based and one of whom is focusing on international students, to allow you to find an examination centre where your child can sit their external examinations. This is a key point of the Wolsey Hall homeschooling, and we are very happy to support you in whatever way we can with that.
So moving on to how our courses work. So primary and lower secondary, they take between 7 to 10 months to complete a year of a subject. And this is in line with a physical school setting by the time you've factored in holidays, etc. So if you were to complete a course with no breaks whatsoever, then it's likely to take you between 7 and 10 months. But obviously we recognise that people take holidays and have breaks, just like you would if you were in a physical school setting. So many of our students will take 12 months to complete a course. So it's 7 to 10 months if you work all the way straight through, up to 12 months for those who maybe are taking a few more breaks and have other things going on. As Ruth mentioned, the IGCSE and A-level courses take approximately 18 months to 2 years. So again, that flexibility, the 18 months to 2 years, is factoring in breaks that may be taken throughout the duration of that period. So a student can start a course at any time of year. So I think that's really important, and that's definitely something that is very different to a physical school setting. We don't have set start dates and end dates for you, other than an end date being tied to an examination, if it's tied to an exam board. But you can start with us at any time of year. It doesn't need to be whenever the rest of the schools start in the location that you're based in. And also as well, you choose how many subjects are studied at home. So that is in your hands. We are very well placed to advise and to guide and give some support. So if you're not sure of how many subjects to take, when to start, etc., then our admissions team are on hand to have a conversation with you about your personal circumstances and what may be best for you and your family. So the way that the courses work is we provide access to our online learning platform called Canvas, and The courses are all laid out. In secondary, they are laid out in a modular way, and you work through the modules. And in primary, they're set out as lessons across weeks of the year. So you work through the lessons. There are no online lessons, so you are not tied to a timetable where you must attend on certain days at certain times and log into an online lesson. Instead, we have videos throughout our courses so that you have the flexibility to decide when the best time for learning is for your family circumstance, and you can work through the text, you work through the activities, you work through the videos, etc., at a pace that's right for you and for your child. Learning is a combination, as I say, of online and offline, and we tried to show that and demonstrate a little bit in the video that you saw a little bit earlier. We think it's really important that children are not just placed in front of a screen all day, every day, in order to be successful in learning. We think it's really important that actually some activities and tasks can be done offline so that there is a balance to the learning that students are doing with Wolsey Hall. Obviously, you are very welcome, and we would always advocate personal learning at home, and there are opportunities to kind of further develop your interest and skills over and above even the learning that's provided on the courses with Wolsey Hall.
So in terms of what our courses include, in primary, our courses are parent-led. As Christine just said, they're laid out week by week in lessons. This means that there are lesson plans to guide and empower you as parents to help support your child's learning at home. It's very much a partnership between Wolsey Hall, the parent, and the child who is doing that learning. So what we aim to instill in our learners from a very young age are the skills needed as they develop and they grow to become more autonomous and more independent. And the parents play a key role in this in the primary level courses, whilst the child themselves are developing those skills. And the activities, if you've seen from some of the videos, are really engaging and hands-on, as well as being interactive and online as well. In secondary, the courses are written to the student, because at that point we recognise that students are at that point in their maturity to be able to take a more hands-on, independent approach to their studies. That's not to say that some parental support isn't required with the secondary courses, because we really do believe that as a child who is learning, sharing that learning, explaining that learning to a trusted adult in the family is a brilliant way for them to reinforce the learning that they've done and to further deepen their knowledge and understanding. So our courses in secondary are directed to the child, and there are, as Christine said, a variety of activities on Canvas, our learning platform, for students to take part in. These also include support activities to scaffold a child's learning, and extension activities as well to really endeavour to move students who are talented in a particular area even further on in their learning. We include well thought out lessons for parents and students to follow. Each course includes a specifically chosen course book, which will provide the core knowledge and understanding for each subject. And as Christine mentioned, the courses are divided either into lessons or modules. At the end of each part of the course, there is an assignment for the child to complete. These are developmental and are designed so that students can show the learning and progress that they have made in the module that they have just studied. We'll come on to how those are marked momentarily. Our courses also include the access to Canvas, our online system. This is where everything that you require for your homeschooling is housed. So that includes details of how to use the course book, the videos, web links, printables, quizzes, and many other items that will further enhance a child's learning experience, such as self-marking activities.
Thank you. And just to mention as well as all of the things that Ruth has just mentioned, a number of our courses also have subscriptions as well. So we have subscriptions to external providers as well to enhance and to consolidate lots of the key learning in our courses, which is just fabulous. So moving on from this, we would like to just share a little bit about how we support the families. Obviously, Ruth has mentioned a few times the partnership between Wolsey Hall parents and students, and this is really quite key. So there are two types of people in Wolsey Hall that are really important to you as a homeschooling family. The first is your Student Progress Manager, or SPM for short. And the SPM is your main point of contact whilst you are part of the Wolsey Hall family. So right from the start, they will be the first person that you meet after the admissions team. They will help to create a timetable that suits your needs so that you are aware of when assignments should be submitted. They will monitor all subjects because your child might be doing a number of different subjects with Wolsey Hall, so they might also have a number of different tutors with Wolsey Hall, but your SPM will be tracking the progress of your child across all of the subjects that they are taking, and they will have regular catch-ups with you as a family just to see how you are, how things are progressing. They'll prompt you if an assignment hasn't come in, just to make sure that everything's okay and to see if they can assist you in some way. They're also a really valuable point of contact for you to share information with Wolsey Hall. So if you're going on holiday, for example, rather than trying to contact every individual at Wolsey Hall to let them know, you can just let your SPM know about your upcoming plans, and they will make sure that that's disseminated to the relevant people in the Wolsey Hall team. The other key people are the tutors. So all of our tutors are highly experienced, fully qualified UK teachers, and they are responsible for marking the assignments that come in from your child. So not only will they mark the assignment to provide an overall grade, but they will also advise on the areas of strength that they can see in learning across the assignment. And they will also provide next steps in learning. And that's really quite key, because the next steps in learning that are provided by your tutor will help your child to keep building on the skills and knowledge they've acquired and to make progress in that particular subject. So at certain points of the year, whilst you're on the course, you're invited to have a virtual meeting with your tutor at various points in the course. And they are also available via Canvas Messenger as well. So if you were to become particularly stuck on a certain aspect of learning, or you weren't quite sure about something, then you can always message your tutor, who will come back to you to answer any questions, maybe provide a web link or a video that will really help move the learning forwards. So tutors, depending on the number of subjects you take, depending on the level, you may have just one tutor, or you may have multiple tutors. So someone who is taking IG CSE, for example, and might be doing 8 subjects with us at Wolsey Hall, is likely to have 8 different tutors because they specialise in the subject that they are a tutor for. So between the SPM, watching progress across all subjects, and then having specialist tutors by subject, you really are well catered for, and it's really easy for both the students and the parents to see how their child is making progress across the year of learning, and to identify where they may need to put some of their attention to improve, and where they are showing particular strength.
So Christine's just spoken about the SPM and the tutor support. We also have additional support for families as required. There are many reasons why students and families choose to homeschool with Wolsey Hall, or choose simply to homeschool. We recognise at Wolsey Hall that students all differ in their aptitudes and their abilities and the support that they require. As such, we have a learning support service designed specifically for students for whom there may be barriers to their learning. They may have special educational needs, and that service is there for parents to liaise with our manager of learning support, who can advise and support with education for your child. The service also is able to support with access arrangements for exams and guide parents and children through that process. As I mentioned earlier, with our community clubs, we are committed to providing a holistic education to our students. And we do recognise that sometimes students may need additional support in a pastoral level. And as such, we also have a wellbeing service that students can access as required during their courses if desired. For the students who are in the IGCSE and A-level phase of secondary, we have a guidance service related to university and careers advice. This is an additional service for families to avail themselves of if they would like. We have an exceptionally experienced university guidance officer who's worked both in the UK and with overseas, and can therefore support with careers guidance, subjects choices at university, as well as being there to help and guide a student through the process of applying to their chosen university, to ensure that everything is as it should be, and to liaise with the tutor team and the SPM team to provide references, which is the last bullet point on this slide. We are able to provide references for children applying to university, as well as other references as required lower down the school.
So just very quickly, we'll just mention staying connected. Obviously, Ruth has mentioned a number of times a holistic approach. And we also recognise that homeschooling can feel a little bit isolated. It can feel like a lonely place sometimes. And so it's important that we look for ways to connect with others. So Ruth mentioned already, we have community websites, both at primary and secondary level, so that it is catering for the right age of student. We also have student forums in secondary as well, so that people can come together to discuss different subjects and topics that they are interested in. We run clubs and we have regular competitions. Just as an aside, we do also have a virtual library, so there's an opportunity to check out books if your child is a keen reader or is looking to enhance their studies. And also as well, we keep people connected through our alumni as well. Now, for parents, it's important as well that there are ways to connect. So for parents, we have monthly newsletters to keep you updated on what is going on. We have a very active invite-only Facebook group for parents. So there's both a secondary and a primary Facebook group. And this is a great way to connect with other families who are attending Wolsey Hall, so that you can get to know each other. You perhaps can find people in the same geographical location as yourselves, so that you can actually extend the opportunity to get to know other people who are also homeschooling. And we find parents have fed back to us that they absolutely love that connection, to be able to reach out to other families via Facebook as well. So those are just a few ways that we do help to connect people. We also have a family liaison as well that can help people to connect if they are looking to get in contact with someone who very specifically is in the same country or same region. If we have someone or know someone, we do connect, so that you have an opportunity to talk firsthand to somebody who is already on the homeschooling journey with Wolsey Hall. I'm going to hand back to Lynn at this point. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Christine and Ruth, for that presentation. I think there may have been a few technical issues on one of the videos. We will include a link to that video and Abdullah's video in the links of the recording that you get in a few days' time. We're also going to include a link to one of our IGCSE students, Stefania, and you'll be able to see a bit more of what it's like to homeschool as an IGCSE student. I would also recommend that if you're interested in seeing some of our students, go to our YouTube channel, Wolsey Hall Oxford, and there's just a whole host of different videos of students from all levels, primary through to A-level, talking about homeschooling with Wolsey Hall. There's also playlists of some of their work and some of the club materials that they've produced, and our lovely choir and everything. So please, I do recommend you have a look there if you have the time. Okay, we're now going to move on to our question and answer session. So please feel free to start asking your questions and typing them on the screen. As I say, you can access the question and answer at the bottom of the screen. We will endeavour to answer as many questions as possible. We have got a very large number of attendees today, so we would recommend as well that if you look up and down at some of the answers other people or questions that other people have asked and their answers too, because we probably won't have necessarily time for answering multiple questions of the same nature. So, and just a reminder as well, any sort of specific to your child questions, please send us an inquiry form for those. Okay, so we have some questions that I'd like to also introduce into the general discussion. And the first one is, can a 14-year-old do A-levels, and what would the advantage of getting A-levels early be? I think, Ruth, that will be your one.
I think that's probably one for me, isn't it, Lynn? Essentially, yes, a 14-year-old could do A-levels if the prerequisites of studying IGCSE had been met. We do have entry requirements for our A-level programmes, due in part to the rigours of the study at A-level and also the university requirements. The majority of UK universities will ask for 5 IGCSEs, including English and Maths, to have been met before A-levels have been studied. That would form part of the offer from a UK university. So can a 14-year-old study A-levels? Yes. Is it necessarily the correct pathway? That is to be discussed with an individual family. My query would be as to the reasons behind studying that, because I think sometimes it can be a great idea to further, if a child is particularly talented academically, it's a great opportunity to really broaden their IGCSE so that they then go on to study a more specific number of A-levels. Because the question perhaps to pose is, what happens when a younger child has studied A-levels? Would they then be commencing university studies at age 16? Again, they're different elements to consider with that question. And again, we would be very happy to talk a parent through that. We do have children who study A-levels at a young age. I can think of a young gentleman now who has taken maths at A-level, and he is 11 years old. He is particularly talented in maths. He's not intending to fast track anywhere else, and therefore it's a great opportunity for students in that position to further enhance. But globally, studying 3 or 4 A-levels at 14, that's a different question perhaps.
Thank you, Ruth. Are all the materials online, or are there textbooks and workbooks?
So yes, there are. So for any courses that have a textbook element to them, then we do send out a physical textbook to you as well. As I mentioned before, we very much want a balance of online and offline. And I think there's something very different about being able to hold a physical book and be able to look through it. And it's a very different experience to just reading text on a screen. So the short answer is yes, we do. We provide textbooks as well as having some online options as well. Ruth, anything to add?
No, I think you've covered everything there, Christine.
Okay, thank you. Here's another one for you, Ruth. Do you offer GCSE as well as IGCSE, and is there a difference in the curriculum?
We offer one GCSE course, which is the psychology course. That is through EdXL. The other qualifications at that level are all IGCSE. The I simply stands for international, and this is the qualification from Cambridge. In terms of the content, there is little difference between a GCSE in the UK and an IGCSE in terms of the content that you would study in, for example, maths or biology. The difference is that an international GCSE, it has a more global frame of reference in terms of not referencing culturally specific or country specific items within their assessment. So it just provides a wider frame of reference for students to draw upon, but there is no difference in how they are viewed by universities or employers.
Thank you. We've got a question here about the number of subjects. The person's actually inquiring particularly about secondary, how many subjects does a child take in secondary, but I think the question is relevant as well to primary.
Christine?
Yeah, absolutely. Shall I start first?
Yeah, go for it.
So I think really it depends on personal circumstance. So it depends on what your circumstance is at home as to how many subjects we would be recommending that you take. I mentioned earlier that the core subjects of English, maths and science, and increasingly so computing, but English, maths and science definitely, would be the kind of the minimum 3 subjects that we would recommend you take. Now, some families might have other pathways that they're taking to address some of the other subjects. So they may not be doing all subjects via Wolsey Hall. They might, for example, have a different method of teaching art than using Wolsey Hall for that particular pathway for subject. But if you were looking to Wolsey Hall to be the main provision for your child to homeschool, then really we would be looking in primary that you should be taking around 5 subjects to 7 subjects to get a breadth of understanding across a wide variety of subjects. If you are having some other pathways as well, then you may just be looking at maybe doing 3 subjects with us or 4 subjects. And some people or also attend physical school as well. So they are supplementing their physical access to schooling with Wolsey Hall. So they might just be taking 2 subjects with us. They might just be enhancing maths and English through Wolsey Hall, or they may be looking to do something that they don't feel is well catered for in the school setting that they're in. So if they have a passion for art, they may take art with us as well as another subject because they don't feel it's very well catered for in their physical school setting. So there is no easy answer to this. It really does depend on personal circumstance. But I think what is important to get across is that there is flexibility there for you to chat to the admissions team and we can help advise on what is best for your particular circumstance.
I would say the same holds. Everything that Christine has said about primary is relevant for secondary. Just in terms of when students are thinking about their lower secondary studies, at that point it is important to start thinking about IGCSE and A-level, because there will be certain subjects where you want to have studied them in lower secondary to create a smooth pathway and transition into IGCSE. So I'm thinking specifically of putting aside what Christina said, obviously the core subjects would go all the way through, but something like a modern foreign language, you would want to have studied it in lower secondary in years 7, 8 and 9 to provide that basis to then go on to IGCSE study. And the same would apply for a number of other subjects such as geography and history. So there's flexibility in what subjects are taken, but we would always at lower secondary points start thinking about future, because what we want to make sure is every child has as many doors open as possible in terms of their future course choices and subject choices.
Thank you both. Does my ward need to take any entrance exam or assessment to make sure that my child is on the correct level for them?
Sorry, I missed the first part.
Do you want me to take this one?
Yeah.
So I mentioned earlier in the presentation, we do offer ready tests. At the admissions point, what we would do is look at prior learning. So if you have them available, we might ask you for previous school reports so we can see the curriculum that has been studied, the levels that have attained, so we can best advise. Certain subjects will have ready tests in secondary, which students complete independently to show how prepared they are to study a course at a certain level. We can then look at those results and discuss them with you as a family in order to find the best fit for your child. So it's not an admissions test, and that's something I want to be really clear about. It's judging an individual child's readiness to study a homeschooling course with us in secondary. Christine, primary works a little bit differently.
Yeah, it's similar. I would throw in the term checklist, because in primary we have checklists as well. And this is just to help guide a parent through that judgment of where their child currently is in their learning. So we do share checklists with you as well. And so you're able to go through the checklist and see which things your child is confident in doing from the checklist, and areas of the checklist where maybe they just don't have that knowledge or that skill level yet. And that's used in conjunction with discussions with a couple of our primary teacher experts. And between those two things and some additional information where needed, we can then help to advise on the best starting point for your child.
Thank you both. Okay, this next question is another one from Ruth. It's regarding our IGCSEs, where we basically have a course that runs year 10 and year 11. And I've got someone asking, can I start at year 11 or do I have to do year 10 first?
Okay, so I'm hoping I've understood this correctly. So we are able to talk with you if you've completed year 10 in a physical bricks and mortar school or with another online provider, to see how the curriculum that you've already studied in year 10 aligns with our year 11, with our courses. Our courses, our GCSE courses, whilst we say they are year 10 and year 11, they're one course. So the course runs over 2 years. We would always advise a student who has completed year 10 elsewhere, they would enroll on the full course, which is a 2-year course. And we would always advise that they complete the first part of the course for revision purposes, and then go on to the new content, because it may be presented slightly differently. And this is particularly important if you've potentially studied an EdXL qualification or an AQA qualification and then move to a Cambridge qualification, because there will be differences in the way the content is organised. Does that answer the question, Lynn?
Yep, I think that answers it. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. So is it possible to add a new subject after the start of the course we have chosen? I know you've talked about the number of courses and selections, but can you add to the courses?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. As mentioned earlier, you can start a course with us at any time of the year, and that would include adding additional subjects as well. So you may be currently studying with us, doing English, maths and science, for example, and after 3 or 4 months of study, you feel that actually you would like to add computing and art to the mix for your child. There is no problem whatsoever at that point adding 2 new subjects to the learning.
I just add to that to say, when we're adding subjects higher up the school, GCSE, IGCSE and A level, not an issue. However, we do have to take into consideration when the external exams will be taken, because we are beholden to the examination boards who set the key sittings for exams.
Thank you both. This is probably a question for Christine. At what time is it expected for a child to know English if at the beginning of year 1 he doesn't speak English at all? So he could be being supported by a parent who can perhaps access the course and explain what they need to do. But at what point would they need to know English, in your opinion?
Well, this is a difficult one to answer without meeting the family and having a bit more discussion around what foundational skills the child does have. So sometimes we have children who may not be able to kind of speak and converse in English at this point, but they have recognition of some of the letters. They might be aware of some of the sounds that can be made even if they aren't speaking English at that point. So it would very much depend on the particular circumstance and the particular level for that child. I would say that it is very useful to contact the admissions team, put in an inquiry so we can speak to you about the specific circumstance that you have currently. But needless to say, the younger the child, the less English language skill we would be expecting them to have. So a child who is perhaps of the age of year one, a year one year group, they may need to do getting ready for year one English so that they are just building those foundational skills, or they may actually be able to access year one with some of the other skills that they are showing. So please do get in touch. As we say in primary, because it's parent supported, what is more important is that there is a basic level of English from a trusted adult at home that will be facilitating the learning. If as an adult you're not sure whether or not you have enough language to support a child at primary level, then again, don't let that stop you from putting in an inquiry, because we also have I don't want to use the word test because it's not a test, but we do have a link we can share with you, and it allows you to access a language, again, I can't think of another word apart from test, but it's not a test, but it allows you to demonstrate your current level of language skills so that we can advise you as to whether or not the level of English at home would be enough to be able to access and support your child whilst they're on that primary journey. So as I say, it's really hard to be very specific without having that conversation with the family and seeing where you currently are with English language skill.
Thank you, Christine. Right, Ruth, one for you. My daughter hates maths. Can she drop this subject for IGCSE and A-level?
For A-level, yes, that isn't a problem. At A-level, students will study the 3 to 4 courses that they are most interested in and that they excel in, and are most likely to achieve the best success. At IGCSE, we would always advise that a maths qualification is followed. This is because it is a standard benchmark qualification in order to enable access to any sort of higher college level education. So it's a level 2 maths qualification. Now, one thing I can say, some students really don't get on with maths. We offer different maths courses. We have an extended maths course, which is designed and ideal for those students who are finding maths. They enjoy maths, they perhaps want to do maths A-level, that's a great course. We also offer a maths core IGCSE. This is designed for students who perhaps are not as enamored with maths as others, and they might find it a challenge. What it does is it provides a pathway to a level 2 qualification, but in the right way for the individual child. So there are different ways that can be supported. The maths courses are really engaging and really interactive. So even if your child has hated maths previously, sometimes a shift in how it is taught can have a real difference. And all of our tutors are so friendly and approachable. We've had a number of students who sound like your daughter who have turned it around in terms of really enjoying their maths because they're studying a course that is at the right level for them. So in summary, we wouldn't advise dropping it at IGCSE, but it's fine at A-level.
Thank you, Ruth. I've got another one actually for you. Is it allowed to study just AS level for 1 year? Does it matter if I don't go on to do the full A level?
That's fine, yes. A levels are a 2-year programme. They are split for Cambridge into 2 halves. We would call that AS, and historically it was called A2. AS would be 1 year of the 2-year programme. So it is fine to study 1 year leading to an AS level qualification. The one thing I would say is please do contact our admissions team, as they will be able to give you subject specific information about AS levels, because there are variants within the Pearson exam board and the Cambridge exam board that I won't go into now because it's quite detailed.
Okay, thank you, Ruth. And sorry, but I've got another one for you. What are the advantages or disadvantages of doing combined science rather than separate biology, chemistry, physics, IGCSEs?
Okay, so from that subject slide, some of you may have noticed that we offer a variety of science IGCSEs. So we offer single sciences, the biology, chemistry, physics. We offer coordinated sciences, which leads to 2 IGCSEs, and combined science, which leads to 1 GCSE. For any parents based in the UK, I understand that sounds different probably to the UK mainstream schools. Those are the names that Cambridge have used. So the coordinated is a 2 GCSE, combined is a 1. What we would generally advise is students who have a real passion for science and are wanting to go on to study science A level, decide between the coordinated science leading to 2 IGCSEs or the triple, the single sciences, the biology, chemistry, physics, because these set them up very well for future A-level study. For students who want to gain a science qualification at level 2 at IGCSE, they would be advised to study a combined science route if they're not continuing on to a higher level subject in science, if they're not thinking about A-levels. In terms of advantages, it all comes down to the individual child and where their skills lie, where they see their future going. So in order to be able to advise you appropriately, I would suggest contacting the admissions team, as we would look at individual child circumstances and future aspirations in order to be able to guide you best.
Thank you. Christine, one for you. How do the clubs work? Are these live online sessions, and how regular are they? They sound great for our younger children of 5 and 7.
Okay, yeah, so we absolutely love the club, so both at primary level and at secondary level. So the way the clubs work is you go to our community website, and every month there is a new challenge or activity that is put into the different clubs. So we have some fantastic clubs in primary. We have Lego Club, we have Bookworms Club, we have Nature Club, Cooking Club, Art Club, all sorts of different clubs for your child to engage in activities which aren't considered necessarily academic, although there's still lots of learning that takes place. They just don't know that they're learning. They're fabulous. Some of our clubs also have an opportunity every month for a meetup. So for example, Lego Club, Art Club in primary, we have a meetup called a show and tell at the end of every month. So it's always on the same day of the week. It's always at the same time, so that you get into the routine of knowing when that meetup is. And that's an opportunity for children, along with the club leader, to come together in the same video call to share the art that you might have made or the build that you've done in Lego that month, and to talk a little bit about what you did. And it's a really lovely way to just share and get to know a few other students from Wolsey Hall as well. And the same applies in secondary, in that secondary has monthly challenges and activities. And we also have things like chess. So chess is a great one. Currently, there is a series of meetups in chess to help teach children how to play chess and how to strategize. And you have the opportunity to then actually play games against other students at Wolsey Hall as well. So we very much encourage all new members to the Wolsey Hall family to get onto the community website and to look at the clubs. And we also have as well, what is lovely is that you can also submit photos and pictures of the things that you have created to share with other community members as well. So we have lots of photos from children with their cooking makes or their Lego builds or their artwork for everyone else to see as well.
Thank you, Christine. For secondary level, so we're talking about years 7, 8 and 9 here, do we choose the subjects for secondary for all the 3 years or year by year?
You would choose them year by year. What a number of families do is they start in year 7 and they tend to follow the same subjects through into years 8 and year 9 to provide that consistency and breadth of approach, because the lower secondary is a 3-year program. However, like from the question that was answered before, you can add in other subjects at any point. So it may be that a family starts with core subjects in year 7 because they're doing alternate ones elsewhere, or they're doing some independent work on art or music, and then choose in year 8 to carry on their core subjects but pick up the other subjects at year 7 level. So it's year by year, but it would be based on their previous studies of a subject to work out which year to enroll upon.
Thank you. This person's put, does the child receive a transcript when he passes the course?
There are end of course reports that are provided that break down in secondary, that break down the average assignment grades and so on across all subjects. A formal transcript for university applications can be requested via our university advice service as well.
Yep, and we're the same in primary. We don't call them transcripts as such, but there is a transfer certificate which provides the information you need if you're actually moving on from Wolsey Hall and you need some evidence of study. There is an end of year report, and there's also certificates as well that we hand out in primary. So there's end of course certificates that you receive to show that you have studied that particular year group in that particular subject.
Okay, thank you. I think we're running out of time slightly. I think we've got probably one last question that I'll just introduce into the live discussion, which is, how can I find other Wolsey Hall students in my area?
I mentioned before that Facebook is a great way. We as an education provider, we take safeguarding incredibly seriously. So in terms of external meetups, then we very much recommend things like the Facebook group as an opportunity for parents to reach out and make connections elsewhere. At the secondary level, you have the forum as well. So you have an opportunity as a student to talk with like-minded people who might share the same experiences, the same subjects. And it's during those conversations that you may find out that somebody is geographically close to you. I mentioned the parent liaison as well already, and there is an opportunity if you are specifically looking to reach out to a family in your geographic location. Our parent liaison works with a number of families across Wolsey Hall who are happy to be that person to be reached out to help connect. Those things spring to mind off the top of my head. Ruth, have you got any other? Obviously we have the show and tells and things that I've mentioned, so the opportunities to connect online.
I think you've mentioned everything, Christine.
I think so. Or Lynn, if you can think of anything that I've missed, then feel free to chip in. But I think those are the main ways that people do connect with each other.
Yeah, I think that's right. Okay, thank you for that. As I say, we are running out of time now, so I'd like to bring Tamara from our admissions team into the panel, and we want to just cover one last question. So if I still have questions that I want to ask about homeschooling with Wolsey Hall, how do I go about finding out the answers?
So the first thing you do is you fill in an online inquiry form on the link that you'll see on the screen, or if you go to our website. That comes to admissions, and then one of us will get in touch to arrange an online meeting or a phone call, whichever suits you better. We can advise you about courses, both the subjects and the levels, and obviously we can go through things like the entry checklists and the online pre-test that we've been discussing. And then following your discussions with admissions, you will then fill in an application form, and from then on you'll go through to enrolment. And obviously the admissions team can also confirm fees and specific book delivery costs for your area.
Okay, thank you very much, Tamara. I can see that we've still got some busy typers in our Q&A just answering those last few questions, but hopefully they will be completed in the next minute or so. Okay, so I'd just like to extend a really big thank you to everyone for joining us today. We really hope you found that the session has been useful and it's given you a good understanding of homeschooling with Wolsey Hall. As Tamara has said, if you do have any questions, then please do go to our website, submit an inquiry form. The URLs for our Inquire Now page and our website are there on the screen now. And our admissions team will be very happy to answer any questions that you may have. You can set up a call with them and discuss everything in detail. So once again, a really big thank you to everyone and have a great rest of day. Thank you.
Thank you.